So if you're a mock builder, you've probably noticed that some of the parts in your collection are useless. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to make those pieces useful. So what is going on, guys? It is Sacred here, and welcome back to another LEGO tip video. And as I said earlier, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to make useless LEGO pieces useful. And this video is going to be split into two different sections. The first one is going to be me showing you guys 5 particular pieces I used to find kind of useless and specific ways on how to make them useful. And then the second section will be me explaining to you guys how to make useless pieces in general useful. And this is also in collaboration with TD Bricks. He made a video on pieces he found useless and how to make them useful, and he went over some different pieces from what I went over, so be sure to check out his video, linked down below, because there's a lot of useful tips in it, and he has like clutch powers, so you definitely want to go subscribe to him. And now starting off with the first piece, which is probably the most useless one, this is the masonry brick. I really can't think of any ways to use these. These are just, they're always... Okay, for real, starting off with the first piece, these are Burps and Lips, and yeah, they have weird names, but they stand for Big Ugly Rock Pieces and Little Ugly Rock Pieces, respectively, and like the name, they are super ugly and they are very useless because of that. Don't use these to represent rocks. Make your own rock work with slopes and everything like that. I made a separate video on all that. But the way you can use these giant pieces usefully is by using them for filler. You could pretty much use all your giant, useless, ugly pieces for filler. I feel like most people just use regular bricks for filler, but if you're making something tall that needs a lot of filler, definitely use Burps and any kind of giant pieces, because you don't have to see the ugliness of the parts from the outside, but they still are used to support the build. And for the next piece, this one is one of my favorites, and it might actually be one of the most useful pieces out there, and these are Mixel Joints and Bionicle Joints. Most people just think these parts are only useful for mechs and mech-like builds that have a bunch of articulation. I used to think like that, but no. These parts are very useful for adding cool angles. You could use them for roofs with intricate shapes, and they're amazing for rock work, because you could get a really cool looking rock shape by using them. Heck, you could even use them for terrain to add cracks and make it look like an earthquake occurred and all that. And in a Mixel joint, you could also separate the two parts that make up the joint and use those for dilapidated walls and just use them separately, and they just add really cool shapes and a lot of detail and variation to your build. So the next piece I want to talk about are ingots. I used to think these parts were only useful to represent currency and the ching-ching, since that's what they were used for in like the Wild West LEGO sets, but these are actually super useful. I love using them in terrain and sidewalks. As you can see in this mini build, I utilized them for the sidewalk sort of road thing, and they add a whole nother layer of detail, since rather than regular 1x2 tiles, the ingots look chipped and worn out, and they just look so much better. And they also work great for destroyed old dilapidated walls because of their like chipped and rugged look. Now, moving on to the fourth piece, I wouldn't really call this one super useless just because there are so many ways to use them, but these are cheese slopes, and I'm sure you know at least a couple ways to use them. But there are actually a lot more than not a lot of people are capitalizing on, such as using them to create angles in your builds. If you stack up 2 studs and then place a cheese slope next to it, you can cause your builds to lean and create some cool angles manually, and that kind of almost replaces like a hinge piece. And yeah, it's very slight, but if with something really tall, the angles are definitely noticeable and look great, such as in my Ingots bank mock, the top pillars are at that angle, and I used cheese slopes and studs for that. And cheese slopes are also really good for flooring and wall designs and all that, and all around they're just a super useful piece, and you'll always be able to find a way to use them. So for the fifth piece, this one is the ice cream piece, and one really awesome thing you could do with these is use them for smoke. As you can see over here in my Hagrid's hut mock, the chimney has some smoke growing out of it, and that's just represented by the ice cream pieces, and I just think it's a great way to use the piece. And over here for this LEGO Mario Kart, the back has some ice cream pieces to represent the smoke and fumes coming out of the engine while it's racing, and overall I just think these ice cream pieces are amazing and very good to represent smoke. Alright, so those were the 5 specific pieces I wanted to talk about, but there's probably more pieces that you might find useless, although to be honest, no piece is really useless. All parts have some use and can be useful, so a general guide to make a part more useful is just to think about the unique features of off the part. For example, ingots have that chipped, unique shape. Mixel joints can angle in 360 degrees. Chi-slopes are slanted. Just find the key feature of the part and see how those would improve your build. It's kind of hard to explain. It's mainly experimenting and all that. Just as you get more experience as a builder, you'll learn more techniques and all that, where you could use certain pieces. So yeah, that is pretty much it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Tell me down below if you like these kind of videos, because they're actually really fun to make. Remember to check out TD Bricks' collaboration part, and leave a like. Tell me what you think down below. Take care, and never stop creating.